Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for the How to Reduce Your Stress or Anxiety in Under 2 Minutes. My name is Chris Johnson, and I guess I better introduce myself. Let me just turn off my screen share so you can see what I look like now. That's an older picture. I should explain the backdrop behind me. Not only am I a stress management consultant and also a hypnotist and NLP practitioner, but I'm also a school assembly presenter. I've been presenting school assemblies to schools like yours for the last 20 years in 36 states across the country. The backdrop behind me replaced what I was supposed to have as a virtual backdrop of my virtual office for my clinic. But leading up to this presentation, I had trouble with the green screen, so I decided to put up one of my assembly backdrops because that is mostly what I do. I'm doing this presentation because I visit schools, hundreds of schools every year, at least 150 schools every year pre-COVID. And even now, during COVID, I visit a lot of schools virtually as well. So I have the opportunity to interact with a great deal of educators, PTA moms, teachers, faculty. So I understand the stress that you folks are going through because I see it every day, even before COVID. And now with COVID, throwing a severe wrench into the learning processes you guys all engage, I can only imagine how much more stressful it is. So my whole goal of this presentation is to bring you some techniques that you can use when you're in your day-to-day lives that'll make your lives a little bit easier. So let's start off. Oops, hang on a second here. There we go. So let's start off with a question, because I don't want to assume that everybody watching this works in schools, because I am making this available to folks in different fields. So are you a school faculty member, a parent, a principal, both, someone else? Just enter your options into the chat box. So let's get a little bit of interaction going here. Question number 2, this school year, and this is being recorded in the latter half of 2020, are you feeling less stress, the same amount of stress, or a lot more stress? Go ahead and enter your answer into the chat box. And then the third question, because of stress, do you find yourself feeling lost, struggling to keep your energy up, struggling to maintain positivity, or all of the above, or none of the above? Enter your answer into the chat box, please. Before we get started, too, also reduce your distractions around you, and please stay until the end. This is going to be very interactive and a lot of fun. You're going to receive some great information, some tools to help you reduce your stress starting today. And I'll also let you know where you can get more information. There's also a special offer for those of you who watch this presentation, as well as those of you watching it live, too. So again, thank you very much for joining me. So, and I'm here today because answer this for yourself. And this is a lot of what people may say to me when they see something like this about stress and stress reduction. They may say to themselves, I don't have time for any long stress relaxation exercises, CDs, MP3 recordings, or traditional ways to reduce stress, whether it be seeing a therapist or acupuncturist or what have you. Or are you here because maybe you've tried medications to lower your stress or anxiety and you haven't noticed much of any differences in how you feel? And other people, they may say to themselves, I'm here because I've been feeling this way for so long that I can't imagine not feeling this way. And I bring all that up because, again, when I'm not doing school assembly presentations, I have been a hypnotist since 2005, hypnotherapist, and helping people to lower their stress and anxiety, help them stop smoking, all kinds of things. And the slide here talks about a former client, Sandy, who gave me some nice feedback. And she talked about how she was able to decrease her anxiety and basically take control of her life. And that's really important. So when you read Sandy's story there to the right of your screen, I mean, imagine yourself, how your future will be once you regain control of your life, or at least learn techniques to lower your stress levels. Everybody's coming in here at different levels, and I do want to acknowledge everybody feeling different. So today during this program, you're going to discover the true nature of stress and anxiety, because even though I'm talking to educators, I mean, all of my clients, when I've done sessions with folks in my clinic, are well-educated, bright people. But there's still a lot of misconception throughout the years over what really stress and anxiety really is. A lot of people look at it as a hindrance. You're going to learn what the true nature of stress and anxiety is. You're going to learn a 3-step system to assess any situation, and also 3 fast stress-busting techniques, which is very important as well. So my goal today is to give you 3 things to help you understand what is going on inside of you, introduce you to the idea that stress reduction can and should be easy and fast, and finally to give you tools you can use today that will make an immediate difference in your life. So let's tackle some myths. Myth number one when it comes to stress and anxiety: being able to handle my stress without relief or complaint is a sign of strength. And, honestly, feeling excess stress is normal and natural. It's like dashboard lights in a car, which I'll cover later. So being able to handle it without relief or complaint is a falsehood. And left unchecked in the long run, stress can lead to heart disease and high blood pressure. Let's look at myth number two. There's no way out. There's nothing I can do to relieve my stress. A lot of the people I talk to, that's what they talk about when they talk about feeling the stress or anxiety. That they talk about it being no way out. And the reality of it is this: no matter what your situation, there are always things that you can do to feel better. There's always options, and at the very least, you can use techniques you're going to learn today to help relieve some of the pressure of the stress you may feel. And that's really important because I like to look at the feelings of stress sometimes as like a pot of boiling water. In other words, it bubbles up, and the pressure just has to escape. And that has to do a lot with adrenaline and things that we will talk about soon. So, myth number three: I just don't have time to learn ways to reduce my stress or anxiety. And what I say to that is, if you have one in your room with you now, wherever you're at, whether in your home or your office or what have you, if you feel you don't have time to do this stuff because you have so many other obligations, and again, I know most of the folks I'm talking to today are going to be school faculty members, principals, parents, teachers, even people in all their walks of life. I invite you to look at a table in your office. Your kitchen table, if you're in your office, your computer table, or if you're in your dining room or your living room or a coffee table, some kind of a table, and look at the legs of that table. The legs of the table, its job is to hold up the table. Well, if you look at everything you have going on in your life, your responsibilities are kind of like the surface of a table. You've got all kinds of things on the surface of the table. It's your responsibility to hold them up. And your health, your physiological and psychological well-being are kind of like the legs of a table. And if you remove one of those legs, all of a sudden you have a lot less stability. So rather than taking time away from your responsibilities to take care of yourself, by making sure you're of the best mindset possible, feeling the best physically you can possibly be, and giving yourself those outlets and giving yourself that relief, you're making your table legs stronger so you can tackle your responsibilities easier, I should say. And taking just a minute, literally 1 minute, can help. And that's how fast this stuff can be. And I also encourage you, kind of like a warning shot, don't make the same mistake that I did. When the 2016 presidential election was happening, I was under a great deal of stress. No, I'm not going to say which party I prefer or which candidate I preferred then or now, but I was under a great deal of stress. And I let it build for like months afterwards, to the point where I was almost immobile for quite some time. And there's at least one person on the call who can attest to this. And it drove me absolutely crazy. And what was silly about this is I already have, as a practicing hypnotist and NLP practitioner, I already have and had then the knowledge I'm going to share with you today. So it's all about taking action. So let's talk about what is stress. Stress is a great deal of things. It can be, stress is a reaction to change, but I want to go back to the beginning, from step one. A couple of quick things about how the mind works. We have what's called the subconscious mind, conscious mind, a critical factor. The subconscious mind is a part of your mind where it's like data storage. Many people say that most, if not all, of your experiences and memories are stored in your subconscious part of your mind. We're finding now that it's not everything, but it's a lot of stuff in there, and it's believed to be pretty much limitless, that you never run out of room in your subconscious part of your mind. It's also where your emotions are, your feelings, your habits, and that's going to come very important very soon. And then we have what's called the conscious mind. The conscious mind is a part of your mind where it's very analytical. If you're not a mathematician and you're doing math problems with pen and paper without a computer or an abacus, then you're going to be working it out using your analytical portions of your mind. And then we have what's called the critical factor. And that's like the theoretical dividing line that we have between the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. So stress can be termed as a reaction to change. And where it came from, if we go all the way back to caveman times, and any anthropologists listening to this, I'm going to get some of these little details wrong, but it's not germane for the conversation. It's the main points are going to be relevant. Stress evolved, and human beings were a very young species on this planet, and it evolved because of an existential threat. In other words, if something was coming to cause us physical harm, like a wild animal, or if we're getting too close to a precipice or something like that, then this adrenaline surge, it evolved to make us battle ready. There's three basic reactions to stress: fight, to literally do battle and try to save our lives; flee, to get out of the situation; and also freeze, which in other words we become immobile. And that reaction came from a reaction to like a threat to us. If we're being chased by a wild animal, we're going to flee. If we're in conflict with another person, that we may deem it necessary to fight as need be, that kind of thing. And it was because of something happening outside the body. That's the salient point. It's an adrenaline rush is designed for keeping us safe. But here's the deal: when it comes down to modern times, 21st century, the reaction in the body, this stress response does not know the difference between a real existential threat or the perception of threat. In other words, just thinking about something that makes us stressed, it causes the same reaction in our body. Our bodies become mobile ready. So as a result, we feel as human beings in the quote unquote modern 21st century, we feel a great deal more stress than is necessary because we let things percolate inside of our brains. And many of us have a difficult time shutting that reaction off. And I want to stress too, no pun intended, that it's about your perceptions, that what may stress you out may not stress another person out, and vice versa. For example, public speaking. If you were here at the beginning of this presentation, I talked about how I am, for the last 20 years, I've been primarily a school assembly presenter. I like getting in front of groups, delivering presentations to kids in an educational and fun format. And I love it. I love being in front of groups and talking. Even now doing this webinar, even though I'm not the most tech savvy person in the world, I like talking to people and interacting in a public forum like this. And I find it exhilarating. That being said, I know that a great deal of people out there, they find public speaking to be absolutely terrifying. So the takeaway from that is that your perceptions will cause you to feel or not feel stress. And that's really important. So when we talk about stress, we can talk about dealing with it with a simple 3-step stress assessment. So it starts off, step number 1 is an awareness of stress. In other words, we don't always realize that we are stressed. And I know to those of you listening to this, it may sound slightly ridiculous, but it's true. And I can say this because, well, when I don't see very many smoking clients anymore, but in my clinic, when I saw a great deal of stop smoking clients for smoking cessation, they would come to me, we'd sit down and we talk about, and usually they say something like, oh, smoking for me is mostly just a habit. I do it without thinking about it, or I like to taste or what have you. And I would always, at some point in the session, teach the client I was working with stress management techniques like you're going to be learning in a few short minutes. But they would say to me, well, I don't smoke because of stress. I mean, I would say at least 75% of my smoking cessation clients will say to me, no, I don't smoke because of stress. They come in for the second session and how you're doing? Have you smoked? What's been going on? And they say, yeah, I smoked a few cigarettes. Oh, well, what happened? Well, I got a little upset at work, or I had an argument with my spouse, or whatever the case may be. I was like, oh, you smoke because of stress. They didn't see it as stress in terms of that label. They would see it as, just an argument with a loved one, or they got upset at work and had to walk off and take a break, that kind of thing. They wouldn't define it as stress. So that's exactly what was happening. So I talk about having an awareness of what's stressing you. Literally look at what's going on around you and what is causing you to be stressed. That's the second step. So part 2, the analysis. What is causing a stress? And it's not always obvious. Any psychologists listening here, you've surely heard of the term, and hopefully it's not an antiquated term, because I'm not a psychologist, the term displacement. In other words, you lash out at, for instance, a loved one because you're feeling stress at work and you don't feel like you can express yourself in that work environment, or perhaps vice versa. You don't feel like you can express your stress to a loved one, so you take it out at work, or whatever the case may be. It's not always obvious. And now here's the deal. Just by analyzing what it is that's causing us stress, because that analysis process involves using our conscious mind, our analytical mind, we're beginning already to kind of displace us from stress. We're getting to pull back from it a little bit. And that has untold advantages. And of course, number three for this three-step stress assessment is very simply, what can we do? Now, what can you do? It may mean changing your environment. It may mean having a heart-to-heart conversation with a coworker or a loved one. It may mean there's nothing you can do in the immediate future. But again, using some of the tools you're going to learn in a few short minutes, you can at least release the pressure and feel less stress in the moment. And without any further ado, I mean, let's get right to it. So the first stress management technique is something called the 1 minute stress technique. And I'm going to turn off my screen share now. And this is super simple. And if you're watching this as a recording or watching it live, I encourage you to do this live with me. Go ahead and close your eyes. And what you're going to do is you're going to relax your eyes to the point where as long as you leave those eyes closed, you simply would not, those eyes would not open. And of course, as soon as you want to, your eyes will pop right open. So it's more of a decision. It's nothing weird. It's nothing magical. It's simply the decision that you're going to let those eyes remain closed. And once you do so, those eyes will remain closed. So go ahead and close your eyes now, and I'm doing it too. And relax your eyelids to the point where as long as you make the decision to leave that relaxation there, those eyes will simply not open. And I'm going to lean in closer to my webcam, and I'm going to test that relaxation around my eyelids. And you can see, if you're watching, you see my eyebrows boinging up and down. I'm simply proving to myself that while the other muscles on my face and my above my eyes will move, as long as I choose to leave that relaxation in my eyes there, my eyes will remain shut. So it's simply proving to myself that I can make the conscious decision to let my eyes relax, one teeny tiny part of the body to let it remain physically relaxed. And then at this point, you simply wait for about a minute. And I'm not going to wait for the entire minute, but I'll wait for a few seconds in absolute silence. Good. And then once you're ready to take the relaxation away, let your eyes open. Super simple, super easy. Very simple thing to do indeed. Very simple thing to do indeed. Great. So let's go back to my slides, and we'll go to technique number two. And by the way, before I move on from that technique, it doesn't have to be a 1 minute. It can be 30 seconds. It can be 10 seconds. It can be several minutes. But it's been called the 1 minute stress reliever by practitioners before me, because we're acknowledging how time sensitive people are, how they have less time than ever to give themselves those moments of respite. So you can let it be a minute. You can let it be a couple of minutes. It's simply allowing yourself to have focus in your eyelids. Relax one little minute part of your body. And when we talk about relaxing, a lot of people think relaxing is a state of mind, and it is. But just by starting with a bit of physical relaxation, that will help to influence the mind too. Your mind and body are indeed connected. So if you feel physically relaxed, even in one part of your body, it can help inform your mind too, and vice versa. Very simple, very cool, very effective. Now, number two, this is one of my favorites, the mental vacation. What I'd like you to do, and you don't have to share this, you can if you want to share it in the chat box, it's totally up to you, but it's not necessary, is think of a place you went to at some point in the past where you felt deeply relaxed. A lot of my clients, when I had my clinic, my physical clinic open, I now have a virtual clinic. When I had my physical clinic open, a lot of my clients coming would tell me that they would go to the beach, they go on a cruise and go to the beach, that kind of thing. So beaches were very popular, which is why I have a picture of a beach on my screen right now. But it doesn't have to be. It can be your grandmother's backyard. It can be your own bedroom. It can be a forest. It can be a movie theater, pre-COVID, obviously. But think of a physical location that when you've been to this location, you feel as relaxed as you could possibly be. And once you've made that decision, go ahead and close your eyes. And what I'd like you to now is just think about that physical location. Think about that physical location in terms of things you would see. Like, for instance, if you're on the beach, imagine what the sand would look like. If you're sitting on a towel, what would that towel look like? What colors are the towel, for example? If you're on a beach, for example, what would the sky look like? Would it be completely blue? Would it be fluffy white clouds? Would it be overcast? And not everybody looks at sunshine as relaxing. Some people do enjoy overcast days. I know my wife enjoys a nice overcast day, and she likes a good snowstorm to hunker down with a blanket and watch a good movie. If your location is indoors, what do the walls look like? What do the furnishings look like? Make those details as real in your mind as possible. And by the way, if you have difficulty imagining things visually, just think about it. It doesn't matter. Just think about it. Then imagine all the things you would hear if you were actually in that physical location. If you're on the beach, perhaps you'd imagine hearing the waves of the ocean lapping up against the shore. Perhaps you'd imagine hearing the sound of people splashing in the water or yourself splashing in the water. Or if you're indoors and if you're in a tropical location indoors, maybe you can imagine the air conditioning turned on or whatever, all the sounds you would hear. Make those as real in your mind as you possibly can. If you have a favorite song, imagine that now too in your mind's eye. Make it as real in your mind as you possibly can. Good. Then as well, add in all the things you would feel. If you're sitting on that beach, what would it feel like beneath your body? Like if you're sitting on a lawn chair, for example, they have a certain, a certain mesh quality, or the ones that I'm thinking of, the fold-up ones. There's usually some form of mesh there, whether it's plastic or bamboo or what have you. If you're sitting on the beach proper, are you sitting on the sand directly, so you can feel the bumpy unevenness of the sand beneath your body? Or are you sitting on a towel and you can feel the slightly muted unevenness because the towel is blocking your body between that and the sand? All the things you would feel if you're indoors, for example, if you can feel a ceiling fan going and feeling the wind against your skin. Imagine all the things you would smell. Maybe you're in a restaurant. I mean, one of the most relaxing things my wife and I do, we've got our favorite restaurants we like going to. Maybe you can imagine yourself at a restaurant. And if you're at a restaurant, add smells to it too. Visual, the things you would hear, things you would touch, things you would smell, taste. Make those things all as real as you can in your mind. And without the sound of my voice, just allow yourself to enjoy those sensations for just a few moments. Good. And let your eyes remain closed for just a few moments and enjoy that sensation. The interesting thing about stress in our bodies, or all feelings in our bodies, is that what we think about influences our bodies. So if we think about something that we found relaxing in the past, our bodies begin to relax. If we think about something that I have found stressful in the past, our bodies will begin to tense up. So our thoughts influence our actions. And the reverse is true too. If you begin to feel physically relaxed, it will begin to take an effect on your mind too. But because many people experience the sensation of a racing mind, for example, one of the easier things to do is work on physical relaxation. And with practice and time, the mind will indeed follow. So anytime you need a break from here on in the future and it's safe for you to close your eyes, you can just give yourself a 1-minute mental vacation break. And if it's not okay for you to close your eyes, like if you're driving and you've got a long commute, you can let your eyes remain open and let your thoughts partially wander to that mental vacation. It will help. Maybe it will not make you feel completely relaxed as you would if you're in a quiet room with your eyes closed, but it will indeed help. It will begin to take the edge off. And that's what we're talking about here. So that is the mental stress, the mental vacation. Wonderful technique. And now you can if you haven't already, you can let your eyes open up now, because this is a visual technique I'm going to work on, help you work on. And this is called bilateral hemispheric stimulation. I'm going to stop my screen share and show you what this is all about. Now, I happen to have some unsharpened pencils here, but honestly, this can be anything. It can be any small object. So right now, if you're watching this recording or watching it live, doesn't matter, start to step into some of your stress, because this one is so simple that unless you experience it, then most people I talk to, they don't believe in the effectiveness of that until they actually experience it. So go ahead and step now into some of your stress. You think about something that caused you stress in the past, and as soon as you can feel some of that tension or whatever the case may be, go ahead and take any small object. I'm holding on to an unsharpened pencil. You can use your cell phone. You can use a marker. I usually teach it with my clients because I give out branded ballpoint pens, but it can be anything. Is begin to and take that small object, whatever it is, and move it back and forth from hand to hand. And keep on doing this while I explain it. This is called bilateral hemispheric stimulation. And basically what happens is stress manifests itself, and you keep on, I'm gonna stop, and you keep on going. The stress manifests itself in one hemisphere of the brain. Right now I forget which half of the brain it manifests itself in. But as a result of this back and forth action, you're stimulating both hemispheres of your brain, left hand, right side of the brain, right hand, left side of the brain. And by stimulating both sides of the brain, the side effect is the stress just kind of goes away. It's the analogy that I use is like water going down a drain. And within moments, if somebody were to assign their stress on a 1 to 10 scale, invariably after just a few seconds of doing the silly, mindless little technique, they're going to feel their stress drop by several numbers, 2 numbers, 3 numbers, from a 10 down to like a 7, keep on going for like another few seconds, maybe from 7 down to a 6 or a 5, whatever the case may be, it's improvement. And the reason why this is important is because in our day-to-day lives, if we have a lot of stress, I'm going to get back to that boiling pot of water analogy, we have the lid on it and the water's bubbling trying to get out, the pressure builds up to the point where not only do we feel stressed for things that we perceive warranted, but we also begin to feel an inordinate amount of stress for things that shouldn't warrant it. For example, if I was to drop this pencil on the floor, then it shouldn't even register in a stress scale. It's like, oh, I dropped the pencil, pick it up. But, and I've learned this from conversations with my clients, they drop a pencil on the floor, and they just go crazy. And they're already at a 9, and something inconsequential like dropping a pencil, now for no other reason than just dropping a pencil, now they're up from a 9 to a 10. So we're talking about here about alleviating the pressure. And it's just like the simple mindless activity. And what I like about this one and all of these really is that with this one in particular is that it is so easy to disguise. In other words, if you're in a meeting, and again, I know I'm talking mostly to school educators and faculty members, that if you're in like a PTA meeting, for example, or like a staff meeting or what have you, and you're feeling all the stress, you don't have to go like this, like I was doing a moment ago. It can be like a very small movement. And now you're not a person who's doing a stress management technique. You're just somebody who's just kind of mindlessly fiddling with a pencil. It becomes invisible. People won't even register it. It becomes an invisible technique. The mental vacation is something you can do with your eyes open. That becomes an invisible technique too. The 1 minute stress reliever, you do have to close your eyes for that. So that's not totally an invisible technique. But the other two, you can do them pretty much anytime, anywhere. And this one is one of my favorites because you literally don't have to think about anything. You don't have to go, I'm going to do a stress technique now. You just start doing this. And whether a little or a lot, it will indeed begin to make a difference for you. And that's what I wanted to bring to you today. The perception that many of my clients, and even when I go into schools to do my assembly programs, and I overhear, because when I'm the guy setting up an assembly presentation, I become invisible and people walk by and I pick up conversations that people talk about how stressed out they are, how they don't have time to do X, Y, and Z, like I alluded to earlier. And with little techniques like this, and I'll tell you about, an opportunity for more techniques like this in a moment, things that take less than a minute can make such a massive difference in your life. Maybe it won't be everybody watching this is different. Maybe it won't be life-changing per se, but as sure as anything can help you get through that moment. And with time, doing more of the techniques, you can begin to notice a change in your life to where it seemed like every day was you're redlining it and you weren't sure how you're going to get through the day, to your perceptions. Remember those words, how your perceptions have changed now. Maybe now you're, instead of like a 9 or a 10, maybe your daily stress level is like a 5 or a 6. And while that's, that's unfortunate, 5 or 6 is certainly a lot better than 9 or a 10. So we're talking about taking control of your life, or at least taking control of your perceptions. And that's the important takeaway with all these techniques and information I'm giving you today. That stress is not your enemy. Stress is letting you know what is going on, and stress is letting you know that something must need to be addressed. So with all that in mind, ask yourself, what was the most useful thing you learned today? It could have been some of the stress management techniques. It could have been, my very brief overview of the exact nature of stress and how is a biological evolutionary tool to help us stay alive. It could have been the three-step stress assessment protocol and some of the things I talked about in that. But whatever it is for you, think about what the most useful thing was you learned for yourself today. And for me, my Eureka moment, what this meant to me was that stress relief does not have to be complicated or lengthy. And it was also, as a continuing of that thought, because we've had this stress for so long, because we've been in this mental state for so long, many of us, and believe me, I've talked to hundreds of my clients in my clinic and thousands of faculty members I've interacted with at schools throughout the years, that many of us believe that enacting positive change or even relief must take forever because we've felt this way for so long. So now the cure, quote unquote, must also take forever. That's absolutely not true. And also, there's as a continuation of my Eureka moment, I believe when I got into helping people, getting into the helping fields of being a hypnotist, that the cure, there had to be some kind of pain for the cure. I'm not going to get into a lot of details, but as a hypnotist and NLP practitioner, I learned a specific protocol, which if followed was supposed to be the end all be all of all protocols. And the head practitioner of this claimed that if it didn't work, either you, the hypnotist, was not doing it correctly, or the client experiencing it was not willing to change. And that's absolutely not true. There is no one size fits all method for this, which is why I taught 3 different stress management techniques today, because they're going to affect different people different ways, different personalities, different times of day, different situations. Change is a process. It can be fast, it can be easy. But again, I'll reiterate it one more time. Every person, a situation, and different. So therefore, I'm going to tell you now, with your permission, I'm telling you now briefly about the opportunity for more tools and techniques. And that is something I've called the Educator Stress and Anxiety Reduction Toolkit. Again, this is designed specifically for educators and former educators, PTA moms, principals, teachers, because I know how much pressure you folks are under, and I know how little time you have to, go to a therapy session or go to a masseuse or go to an acupuncturist, whatever modality that maybe it's crossed your mind, and you may not have time for it. And if you do have time for those modalities and you find that works for you, fantastic. But this toolkit I'm going to be talking about for the next couple of minutes is something that is designed for people on the go, things they can do anytime, pretty much anytime, anywhere, similar to the bilateral technique I showed you with my pencil a moment ago. And what this system includes is 18 short online videos. I think the longest one is like 10 minutes. I could be wrong about that, but they're all very short, bite-sized videos. In the videos, I cover 12 easy and fast stress relief methods. So if you enjoyed the 3 that I taught you today, there's an opportunity for 12 on the videos, and they fit different lifestyles and different techniques and everything. And they're also none of it is contingent upon faith. Faith is wonderful, but in our very diverse culture and so forth, I did not want to have any faith-based techniques that relied upon prayer or things like that, simply because I wanted this to reach as many people as possible. So these are all neurological techniques that can help you, regardless of what your faith is or may not be. I'm also going to teach you in these videos an easy method to gauge your own process, because a lot of the times people are not aware of how they're improving. I had a client who came to see me in my sessions for a fear of spiders, And after the first session, she came in, and by the way, before she saw me, if there's a spider in the house, her husband had to kill it, show her the body, dispose of the body, and she still could not go in that room for like 2 weeks later. She, block herself off from whatever that room was. After her first session, she came in to see me, and I said, "How are things going?" She says, "Oh, pretty good." And I'm like, "Really? What's pretty good?" As well, I saw a spider. My husband was away; he couldn't get it, and it was up in the corner of the wall, and I couldn't reach it. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I just kind of let him go. But I didn't like him being there. I go, "Isn't that a heck of a lot better than not being able to be in the room even after the thing had been killed?" So a lot of the times we don't realize we made progress. So in my system, I'm going to teach you a simple way to gauge your own process. You're also going to get PDFs that you can print out and refer to on the go if you don't have time to look at a video. You're going to have lifetime access to this. And I've also created a Facebook group for additional support and questions if you want to interact with me directly. Now, here's the thing. My normal per session rate starts off at $150 for an hour-long session. When people have come to see me, they book a package of sessions, in-person sessions for $499 or more. Sandy, my client earlier, that I referenced earlier, she booked a group of sessions for almost $800. Well, you're not going to pay that price. You can get the Educator's Stress and Anxiety Reduction Toolkit for just $47 per person. And also at the bottom of the screen, you can see there that there are entire school and district rate options available. You can contact me at chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net if you'd like to discuss the school and district rates availability. It'll be a significant discount for the per person rate. And again, I don't have those posted here because every school and district is going to be different. Maybe you have a small school, 20 teachers, I'll give you a great rate for that. Maybe you've got a bigger school of 500 faculty members or district of 1,000 faculty members. I'll give you a really nice deal for whatever situation you are in. So, and again, this is per person and you get instant access to this. So what you do next is you visit the website faststressreduction.com. Again, that's faststressreduction.com, all one word, all squished together. Enter your credit card information on my secure website. I never see your payment information. It's totally secure. And you'll receive instant access to the entire program via email. You'll enter your credit card information in there. Once you click submit, you'll be taken directly to a thank you page letting you know your information has been submitted, and you'll also get an email with the link that you can have access to for lifetime. So be sure your email settings are such that if you need to check your junk or spam folder, so that if you miss the email, you can go back and find it. And obviously, you can also contact me, chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net, if you have any questions, any problems with this particular system. So again, that's faststressreduction.com. Enter your credit card information on my secure website, and you receive instant access to the entire program. And again, if you decide to go, to explore the option of an entire license for your entire school or district, then I would simply provide a special link for all the members of your school or district to have access to the entire program. And now, if there are any questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask me the questions directly, or you can enter them into the chat box. And I know we've got a small group today interacting live, and that's fine. I knew that kind of going in when I scheduled this between Christmas and New Year's. It's kind of an experiment as far as timing goes and everything, but I see no questions. So, okay. Okay, thank you very much, Billy. I sincerely appreciate that. Appreciate that very greatly. I thank you very much. And you and I will talk privately, my friend. So thank you so much. So, so I want to thank you folks for joining me. And again, that website, oops, hang on a second here. That website is www.faststressreduction.com, faststressreduction.com, all one word. You can visit that today to access the entire program, have lifetime access and access to me for additional support and so forth. So you folks have been wonderful. Thank you very much for joining me. And this is Chris Johnson. So have yourself a great day. And I'm recording this a few days before New Year's. So have a happy and safe New Year's. And I look forward to seeing all of you soon at faststressreduction.com. Thanks very much, folks. Okay, let me stop the recording.